Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel. It seems like no matter where you live, temperatures are just ridiculously hot this summer. In parts of Europe, the Cerberus heat wave is causing temperatures to reach 100 degrees, most notably in Italy, and I think that's around 10 degrees warmer than usual for this time of year. And in the US, Phoenix has been experiencing 115 degree temperatures pretty regularly. And when things start to get that hot, you can have some pretty serious problems. One area that's particularly vulnerable to this kind of heat is our electrical grid. You have a situation where people start to turn up their air conditioners trying to get some relief, and when you have a whole lot of people doing that at one time, it can start to put a pretty serious strain on that infrastructure. And so stuff starts to break down. Since our electrical grid is interconnected, when one part of it starts to have issues, it starts to further tax other parts of that grid and things can just start to cascade. The West Coast grid in particular is pretty vulnerable to this. Every year, rolling blackouts are pretty normal during the summer months. But even if we don't lose power, our air conditioners could still break down just by themselves, especially if they're older or not well maintained. And when we lose access to things like air conditioners or fans, or just stay out in the heat too long, it can cause significant problems for our bodies. Hospitalizations in Phoenix, for example, have increased dramatically, and there's been several confirmed heat-related deaths with more under investigation. Texas, which is where I live, has experienced this also. We had an out-of-state line worker come to repair things after a storm, and he ended up dying because of that heat. So this really is something that all of us should take pretty seriously. DIY solutions like a homemade swamp cooler can be a decent option, at least for short-term outages. And this is something that I wanted to do last year, but I couldn't find all the materials that I needed. But the first thing that you're going to need, of course, is a cooler. And for mine, I'm just going to use a little cheap foam thing that I picked up at a dollar store. You're also going to need a fan to move air. I'm going to be using this small battery-operated one, which can run on rechargeable D cells. That particular fan can run for up to 24 hours on high, and since those are rechargeable batteries, I can keep them going using some sort of solar power option. You'll also need some ice, and for that I'm going to be using these reusable ice packs. And what's nice about these is you can keep them in your freezer at all times so that when the power goes out, they're already frozen, they're ready to go. You're also going to need some PVC pipe. Now most people, they use a PVC elbow on top of the cooler, but I didn't really want to go spend money on that. I think where I'm at, those big elbows are like 15 bucks. So instead, I just used this scrap straight piece of PVC pipe that I'm going to put into the side of the cooler instead. So to put all this together, start by marking the outline of your fan on the cooler's lid, then use something like a utility knife to cut that out so that the fan will sit inside of it. You probably want to cut a little bit inside of that line to make sure that the fan sits there rather than go all the way through, because remember, you can always remove more material if needed, but you can't really just put it back. From there, make an outline of your PVC pipe and cut this out as well. And once again, I cut that out a little bit smaller than it needed to be just so that that pipe will fit snug. Hopefully there won't be any gaps, but if there is, then you can cover those using something like duct tape, although metal ductwork tape would probably work a little bit better. Then after you've done all the hard stuff, just place your ice packs inside of the cooler, put the lid on, and then put the fan in place. And how this works is that the fan is going to force air down into the cooler where it's going to be cooled by those ice packs, and then that cooled air is going to be forced out through the PVC pipe. At the very least, it's going to provide some decent directional cooling, like if you're sitting in front of it. There are more sophisticated ways to do this sort of thing, like you can make an evaporative cooler out of like a bucket and a bunch of other materials. But the reason why I did it this way is just because it was cheap and easy, and really it doesn't require a whole lot of specialized materials. Most people can just go out and buy all this stuff today. Now, if you have a 12-volt freezer and a solar generator, you may be able to use this for longer term situations also. You can use that 12-volt freezer to freeze your ice packs repeatedly as needed. And if you have multiple sets of them, then you can just rotate through them. You can have one set in the cooler, another set in the freezer, and just kind of keep bunny hopping them over and over again. Also, since 12-volt freezers require a whole lot less power than something like a side-by-side fridge freezer, If you have a good-sized solar generator, you should be able to keep that running pretty much indefinitely. And if you fill it with frozen food in addition to your ice packs, that's going to help it run efficiently. And of course, it's also going to have the added benefit of helping you preserve some additional food. Now, you may not be able to save everything in your fridge and your freezer inside of a tiny little 12-volt fridge freezer, but you could save your most expensive and important items, maybe like meat. A good solar generator should also be able to recharge the batteries for your fans as well. And that's another thing that it's good to have multiple sets of so that you can rotate through them. Have one set on the charger and then the other set in use. Then fans, of course, can also be good just by themselves. The fan that I use for the swamp cooler is a tent fan that I've shown on several videos, and these are nice because while they were designed to be used in a tent, if you have something like a hook and some paracord, then you can suspend them above your bed also. This other fan also runs on D cells, and it's good for keeping on tables like in your living room or bedroom, dressers, or on the floor. Job site fans like this one by Milwaukee are also good options, but just be aware that their run times will go down drastically as the batteries get older. That becomes a really big problem if you're using something like a fast charger, because fast charging is a little bit harder on the batteries. And once those batteries start to degrade, then those fans and anything else that runs on those batteries really aren't going to be all that useful. Now, of course, if you have a solar power option, these can be used to run corded fans as well, but I still prefer battery-operated fans for a couple of reasons. First off, they can run for a pretty long time, especially if you're using those large, full-capacity 10,000 milliamp hour D cells. And I don't really mind that they're smaller than some of their corded counterparts, because usually when I'm using them, I just point them at me or whoever else is using it, so we just kind of get that directional air. The second reason is that I would rather use power stations to run something like my box freezer, because the food inside of it, if I can keep it frozen, will probably extend my food storage by about a month. Then another thing that you can do with a fan is improvise an evaporative cooler. Just dunk a towel in some water, drape it over something, and then let the fan blow air through it. You can also do something similar by taking a damp towel and then hanging it inside of an open window, and it'll perform a similar function. And even though we like to focus on blackouts as the reason why we lose our air conditioners, the fact of the matter is sometimes those just break down all on their own. Now, you can do things like replace your filter regularly and some other things to maintain them, but sometimes things just happen when they have that much strain put on them. Keeping a window AC in your house can make things much more bearable in these kinds of situations. While they're not going to be able to cool down an entire house, they'll do an excellent job cooling down an individual room. Several years ago, my wife and I lost our central air in like June or July, but we had an old window unit that was with the house when we bought it, so we just pulled that out, stuck it in a window, and I think our room was actually colder with that window unit than it normally is when we have our normal air conditioner. And those can be used with a generator, but only under certain circumstances. Most notably, if you have a large like gas generator or a standby generator hooked up to a transfer switch, because you really do want to have those plugged into an actual outlet. Because if you try to use those with extension cords, then fires are a big concern because they use just so much power. You can also use one with a larger solar generator, but even if you have like a large battery capacity, that's still going to drain it very, very quickly, because anything that either heats or cools is just going to be a power hog. But even more important than all of this other stuff is regulating your body temperature, and one of the best ways that you can do that is simply by staying hydrated. And to do this, you want to have plenty of water stored at your home, because there is a chance that water utilities could go down as well, especially if this situation lasts long enough. And if it's something like a boil water notice, of course, you can boil your water to make it safe. But if we're dealing with a summer power outage, that may not be the best idea. Because while boiling will make your water safe to drink, it can also drastically increase the temperature inside of your home. If you're using something like a gas stovetop or maybe a butane stove inside of your house to do that, most of us don't really realize how much radiant heat those things give off, until the air stops circulating inside of our homes. Now, you can use something like a camp stove to boil water outside, but you're going to be near an open flame in temperatures that are already pretty high, so that could be problematic. Probably the best time to do that would be early in the morning or in the evening when the temperatures aren't as high. But if you can get around that by storing plenty of water inside of your house and then also having food that doesn't need to be cooked, like canned fruits, peanut butter, and then crackers, that could be some good things to hold you over, at least for shorter term situations. You also want to avoid using things like candles and oil lamps during the summer because these have open flames which radiate heat and will raise the temperature inside of your home. That becomes a bigger problem if you're using several candles or oil lamps, and most of the time you will because they don't produce as much light. But they also present a fire hazard. House fires are fairly common during blackouts, and those can spread quickly if conditions are really dry and also windy. So it may not just be your house and your property that's affected. LED lighting is a much better choice since LEDs run cool. That's a byproduct of their efficiency, which also helps them run longer than other kinds of electrical lighting. But if you're storing these long term, be sure to remove the batteries when they're not in use so that they don't corrode and ruin the device. But even if you drink plenty of water, your body's still going to need electrolytes. When you sweat, you lose things like sodium, potassium, and magnesium, and not having the right amount of these in your body can cause some serious problems. Having things like Gatorade and Pedialyte Sport can help you replace these, and even though there are healthier options than Gatorade, the larger cans of powdered Gatorade are still good to have on hand just because they go so far. Each can produce around 6 gallons, and since it has such a high sugar content, it'll store for a very, very long time in a sealed Mylar bag. But there are some drinks that you do want to avoid, like anything with caffeine or alcohol. And aside from staying hydrated, there are other things that you can do to regulate your body temperature. Wearing loose-fitting, lightweight, light-colored clothing can help, and then also draping something like a cooling towel over your neck can be good also. But one thing I like to do when I'm working outside is I'll just douse my hat with some water, and that really does a good job helping keep my head cool. Utilizing pulse points is another good way to regulate your body temperature, and if you're not sure what those are, they're just places where blood vessels are very close to your skin. So think of places like your wrist and your neck where you would check your pulse, but there's other places also like your temples, your armpits, the inside of your elbows and your knees, and then also your groin. When you put something like an ice pack or a cold soda can over these places, then it cools the blood as it passes through there and it goes through the rest of your body. Doing that and then also having somebody soak in cool water can be good ways to help somebody if maybe they have heat exhaustion or heat stroke. Then there's also things that you can do to your home to make a summer power outage more bearable. If you can afford it, adding some additional insulation in places like your attic can really make a difference when it comes to keeping your home cool in the summer, warm in the winter, and it can help save on your electrical bill. Sealing up any leaky doors or windows would also be beneficial, and if you can't afford to do this ahead of time, then you can always take something like some wide painter's tape and use it to cover those gaps, and it'll have the same effect. If you know that a power outage could happen due to a storm or that rolling blackouts are headed your way, then you may want to go ahead and turn down your AC a couple of degrees. While this isn't going to help you much during an extended power outage, it could make maybe at least the first night a little bit more bearable. Keeping windows, curtains, and blinds closed, at least on the sunny side of your home, can also help keep temperatures down. Blackout curtains work especially well for this because they block more light, but if you don't have those, then you can always just hang up something like a blanket over those windows for the same effect. At night, opening windows can be beneficial as long as the temperature outside of your home is cooler than it is inside. But if insects like mosquitoes are a problem in your area, then be sure to have screens installed on your windows. You can also keep plants like lavender and rosemary underneath your windows because these will do a good job helping repel mosquitoes. And being proactive and applying insecticides to the area around your home can help control them as well. You also want to know the parts of your home that tend to be the coolest. If you live in a multi-story home, lower levels will tend to be cooler since heat rises, and lower levels are going to be further away from the roof. Basements would be ideal since they're partially underground. But from there, figure out which parts of your home receive less direct sunlight during the day. As a good general rule, the southern end of your home is probably going to get more light than the northern end, but other things like large trees that give a lot of shade can kind of influence things as well. But in some situations, the best thing you can do during a summer power outage is just get out. If you have friends or family that don't live too far away, you could just go hang out with them for a little while. If any businesses in your area still have power, you may want to go cool off there. For example, maybe there's like a bookstore or a coffee shop that you could go to, and while you're there, you could also do things like recharge your cell phone, power banks, and maybe if you can get away with it, maybe a small solar power station also, because with things like that, they're going to charge up a lot faster from a wall outlet in most cases than they are from solar panels, so you may want to take advantage of that. But trying to stay cool is just one of the problems that you would face during a prolonged power outage or blackout. So if you want to see 10 things that every prepper should have taken care of, then check out this video, or if you just want to see some prepper tech that you probably want to have, then check this one out. Thank y'all for stopping by. Y'all have a good one.